This is Blue July, and you're listening to the Be Someone podcast. Lights looking bright, the H got the vibe. See my name on the signs, it's my time to shine. When I was cruising 45, and it crossed my mind that I shine like the sun and that I'll be someone.
Hey, welcome everyone to the Be Someone podcast. This is your host, Coach Chris Ortiz, and today we are joined by Kevin Keys, Woodlands Family Chiropractic, six-time reigning defending chiropractic champion here in the Woodlands, Texas. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, buddy. Thanks. That's a great introduction.
I'm going to just follow you around, and I'm just going to introduce you everywhere you go.
Oh, I know, man. With an introduction like that, I mean, I would live up to it.
But I wanted to thank you for having us here. Like, you have
Of course.
a gorgeous building. We just got through, speaking, to your gorgeous wife and your handsome son, about the whole Keys family experience. And this is going to be a little bit more on the lighter note,
Sure,
right? We're going to talk about, chiropractics and just, how is it you arrived to where you're at today? So thank you, Kevin, for having us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, well, let's start with this. The teacher in me is always curious, what kind of kid were you? What kind of student were you growing up?
Well, going back, I think of the days of kindergarten, and I was that restless kid. I probably would have been diagnosed. I never really officially got the ADHD diagnosis, but I was really active as a kid. So I probably got myself in a little more trouble. But I learned through my own strategies. My mom was a nurse. My dad's an engineer. And I think they just, it was a really loving family. So they embraced it. And, I think you develop your little workarounds.
Yes.
And so to my advantage. So that's, go ahead.
I was going to say, did the academics, come easy to you, even though, you may have, I don't want to say behaviorally challenged, but like the classic classroom setting just maybe wasn't for you?
Yeah. I definitely was more hands-on. And that's why I love being a chiropractor, because I get to work with my hands. And so I could absorb. But of course, I would say was a challenge. And probably still to this day to somewhat. That's why I love podcasts.
Yes.
And YouTube and podcasts are just a great avenue, because I could sit through it and I can listen and I can absorb. But writing notes or reading off of a page was a little bit more of a challenge. But again, getting through chiropractic school, academically, thankfully, I did well, but it was always me taking a little bit more time to get through the material than the average kid out there.
The teacher in me also wants to know, like, what would you have changed about your academic experience coming up? Like, if you could play with the setting, play with the teacher to student ratio, or actually like what it was you were doing in the classroom, how would it have benefited someone like you?
Yeah, I would say definitely the smaller setting. I thrive probably a little better in smaller group than the larger group setting. That, and then just, I think it was essential. And I'm fortunate that we had recess time and things like that, because we used to go out there and dodgeball. And I grew up born, raised in Canada. So we'd throw snowballs at each other and we'd be chasing each other around and just, running around the track. And I think that physical outlet's really essential. So I had it, and I saw that worked for me. It's just sad to see a lot of kids now that's kind of being pulled away. So,
yes, some of it I think is the system, right? But then I see it as an educator, like some of it's by choice. Like some kids are choosing to take themselves out of the loop, and it makes me sad.
Yeah.
Have you seen those videos of like what it was like in the 60s for PE?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's intense. It's like some of the calisthenics and the body weight exercise. And I mean, just look at the population and what they were able to do then, and with the just the performance that they had versus the performance now. Like how many push-ups a kid could do then versus now. Yeah. I think we could challenge ourselves a little more in that regard. I think you'd probably see the as a chiropractor again, and movement, I see how that affects cognition, and I think that we'd probably be sharper and our intelligence level would be up through that active movement as well.
100% agree. Yeah. How did you become interested in chiropractics?
Okay, I'll keep the story short, but it's it's funny because it's not the direct course. So I have you ever heard of the series Suits?
Believe so.
Okay, the lawyer. I wanted to be Harvey Specter, basically.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking
before
about.
Harvey Specter was actually a thing, when I wanted to be the corporate lawyer, that's what I thought. So my soccer coach at the time, I was dating his daughter, and he happened to be my history and English teacher as well. So he knew me pretty well, and I was over at his house, and we were getting prepped and looking at college applications and the direction that we were going in our life. And I said, yeah, I'm going to be a corporate lawyer. And he said, that's a terrible idea. And I was crushed, man. And so he let me sweat it out a little bit. And then he said, look, I look at you and I see your characteristics. And he goes, you really want to help people. I know that. And he said, I know you want to serve. I know you want to help people. But he said, look, why don't you go into healthcare? Why don't you take this direction? And so he pointed me to the direction of his chiropractor. And I walked into that guy's office. He allowed me to shadow him. And it didn't take me but like 10 minutes, really, being there, watching this guy and interact with some of his patients and to see what he did and how he helped people. I knew. It was like, this is what I'm going to do. So,
what was it? Like if you can go back in time, and just like
Yeah,
watch from, I guess, remote viewing, right? From the top of the room. What did you see?
Okay, so I like it because it's such a vivid image. When you have those defining moments of your life,
Yes.
you can replay them very, very clearly. So in his office, first I got there and the doc wasn't even there. His receptionist was there, and she said, oh, Doc Zawadzki, he'll be here in just a moment. She put me into his office, and I just kind of sat there and looked at all of his degrees on the wall and stuff. And this guy was a cool cat. He walked in and talked a little bit about, he was big into fishing. He had his own airplane that he flew around. He was talking about all these other things. And then we heard, this couple out in the waiting area, they walked in for their appointment. And he goes, yeah, cool, come on out. And I walked out. And so it was so vivid watching this grown man, like big guy, over, 6'1", 6'2", but big. And he's like leaning on his wife, and the guy can hardly even move and get in to the office. And Doc was probably about the size of me now. And so working on this big old boy, I was in there and I saw him, and he's like, okay, well, let me see this. Let me see this. And the next thing you know, this guy, when he was done, was upright and was like, hugging the doctor and walking out of the door. Like, I was like, this is just a miracle that within 10 minutes, I witnessed a miracle. And that's what was so vivid. And I was like, okay, I want to do this.
So what is the next step? How does one become a chiropractor? What's the schooling? What's required?
Yeah. Well, it's not real super exciting at the start.
Yeah.
It's a lot of courses that I didn't want to take. So coming in high school saying, I want to go into chiropractic, well, you got to get your Bachelor of Science background first and that footing behind you. So, it was a lot of the biology and chemistry and organic chemistry and a lot of those preliminary studies.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, even going off to college and doing that part of it, that was a little tough. But man, once I hit chiropractic school, I hit my stride, and it was just being in that environment where with the anatomy lab and then getting to put our hands on people. It was like, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Have you seen, like, from your inception, of getting into chiropractics to like where we are now in 2023? Like, has the business changed quite a bit, or is it pretty much like fundamentally the same?
Yeah, I think so with regards to chiropractic, the one thing that's the same is just it stands on a real strong philosophy that the body has an ability to heal itself, that our body's not stupid and it doesn't really rely on all these external things that we got to do to it. It's things that if we treat our body right and we treat it well, that it's going to be self-healing. And so as a chiropractor, it's not that I'm doing these magic things, it's that what I'm doing is just relieving these restrictions, allowing the brain to communicate with the rest of the body, and it's taking care of itself, which is the simplified version. So that doesn't change. What has changed over the time is our understanding, the science, the evidence behind it, and that we're gaining more and more at this pace. And also, I would say that just within this is going back into the 80s. There was an actual AMA conspiracy to get rid of the chiropractic profession, and there was a lawsuit. It's called the Wilk trial, and it was in Chicago, and the chiropractors actually won, and it was like this antitrust lawsuit. And so what's happened here is the shift now in popularity in chiropractic. All that old school, like, oh, I'm afraid of a chiropractor. I mean, it was actually some indoctrination that was purposefully put out there, that we were harmful and we're doing these things. And so now with the internet, people sharing their experiences, with YouTube, with social media, you can't take away from people's personal experience. And the vast majority of people that end up using chiropractic, they do have a positive experience with it.
Yeah, the truth is getting out, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So did you initially start working with somebody, or did you jump immediately into your own practice?
Well, so this is, again, a little interesting. The chiropractor that I am today, obviously a lot different than I was back then.
Of course.
But my views also, due to the school that I went to, I was very much it was almost like the medical model. I wasn't so strong in that philosophy initially. And so it was kind of like trying to fit in this natural healing into a medical model. So I came here to the Woodlands, Texas in 1998. I was the first chiropractor at Sadler Clinic, which was a big medical clinic here in the community. And so the first part of my career, it was all very insurance driven by people coming in and out. And so that's not a bad thing because, it had some coverage, but there were limitations being put, and we weren't really taking care of people for what they could potentially see and the goals that they could reach, because you got an HMO telling you, a third party there in the room telling you what you can or can't do.
Yeah.
So that was my initial coming into the Woodlands and growing up through that path. And then along the way, I just really, confidence and clarity are such important things in life. And it comes through experience. And so there's the only loss really is if you just tap out, right? You got to keep going. And if you do tap out, then you got to go back in again. You got to get back in the ring again, right? So you keep going in with these things, and you keep learning from the things that you maybe didn't get right. And that's where I feel like I came along and grew in my understanding of chiropractic and what I could truly do and how I can truly help the community.
How long did it catch you, or how long did it take you to really find your stride?
Oh man, I would, probably longer than it should have. I think I'm a slow learner. Honestly, I would say it was probably 7 years, man.
That's not too bad. I find like as an educator, I didn't hit my prime until like 12, 15 years into my career.
Yeah. Well, I mean, between that 7 to 10 mark, and I got to give a lot of credit to my wife, because, having somebody in life that stands behind you, that believes in you. And I think sometimes she believed in me more than I believed in myself.
It's important.
Yeah. So she was always of the belief that, hey, you were called to be this chiropractor, and you need to go out and you need to do that. And so over time we've built up, and, we've got a beautiful thing going here now. So I'm super grateful.
I think that's like putting it mildly. You have a beautiful thing going on over here. Tell me, what is the philosophy, at the Woodlands Family Chiropractic?
Well, I think fundamentally at the core of it is helping people. So, I mean, we want to make a positive impact on those people. And I would say more than 90% of the time, we're going to be able to do that for people with the things that we do have under our roof. So I always like to start off that way, is that, because if you come out and you tell somebody, hey, I take care of everybody 100% of the time, that's just not
true.
Not true. So, but we will also get them into and that's just making, if you hold that as your philosophy, I want to make it an impact. I know that's really wide, but that then pours over into your staff. So the training that we train our staff, we try and treat them well. It's a whole team approach. So it's different than just coming in, get an adjustment, and leave. Our philosophy is very much wellness based, and I'd like to add this in because I was thinking about it. It was performance based. We just want you to get the most out of life. You can't get the most out of life when you're hurting. So we see a lot of people, the vast majority of people coming in, they're hurting, and we're going to help them get out of pain. But then we also want to look at their goals of what do they want to do. And so I love the people that come in that want to be healthier, want a healthier approach, that want to enhance their performance, sport performance. There's a lot of athletes that utilize chiropractic because of, again, heightening the connection between the brain and the body, those reaction times, those, keeping your body in balance. So I think that's our overall philosophy is more whole health, a whole health approach, not just symptom based. We don't want to take that medical model of just, if you come in just for pain, it's like, what's causing that and what led to that? So, I jokingly but lovingly at the same time, I'm going to give, like I'm sure you do with your students, is give them a little nudge when they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. You're like, hey, bro, I love you, man. So stop hanging your head down with that, that phone, and it's wrecking your neck because you're in here with a herniated cervical disc in your neck, and I'm trying to help you. And I'm going to teach you your sleep-in positions. I'm going to teach you about when you're driving. I'm going to teach you when your computer's set up. I'm going to show you exercises in our gym area. Our trainer is going to go through and talk about this upper cross postural syndrome, how we need to work on your pecs, strengthen the lower traps, work on the suboccipital muscles, use a neck roll at home, devices that you can do at home, but all of that isn't just going to replace the adjustment. It's all together. So it's these, you see what I'm saying? It's like
100%
a soft tissue approach, the adjustments and the soft tissue, the exercise, all that stuff coming together.
You had actually brought up a really good point when you were talking about the connection between the brain, the spine, the nerves and whatnot.
Yes. Yeah.
Could you dive into the science a little bit? Because I know it has application in the athletics field or the athletics world. And the way that I've kind of described it to some of my athletes and some of my friends is like, you can improve the driver, not just, the outside and the body of the car. You're not just putting wheels on the car, but now the hardware or the software can be upgraded as well. I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, well, it's funny you said you use that analogy, the software, because I tell people after I do an adjustment on them sometime, I'm like, hey, we just did a software upgrade on
Yes.
And literally from that perspective is our brain is amazing, the capacity within our brain. And you think of the trillions of messages firing from your brain down your spinal cord, out of those spinal nerves to all these organs and tissues and glands of your body. Your spine, the joints of your spine are actually a sensory organ. It senses position, right? And there's information that's going into the brain, and then there's brain processing and then sending messages out. So if there's garbage going in, that you get that garbled cell signal sometimes,
Yes.
right? And it's not as sharp, or what they call latency, where the speed of the signal isn't the same. So you find yourself, like if you're walking along and you trip or stumble a little bit, your reaction time to be able to recover, right?
Yes.
During sport, that reaction time. So that with athletes that are adjusted on, once they're clear, your body's clear of some of the restrictions that we find. And again, your muscles are sensory organs too. They're so they have tendinous attachments. So we look at Woodlands Family Chiropractic, not just your spine, but full body, from your TMJ, the musculature in around the skull, down your whole spine, and your shoulder, wrist, arm, hand, carpal tunnel, these types of things, to hips, knees. Of course, everybody kind of thinks neck pain, back pain, but it's so much more than
That's
just
incredibly simplistic to think that way, correct?
Yeah, and I mean, but we want to we could dive into those complexities, but it's just really, it is so simple that if we find areas that are overloaded, your body can only take so much burden, and it's not going to be at its best. So to make a positive impact on people's lives, again, having that trust, and it's so, I can say with, again, that so much clarity, so much confidence, that seeing and working on so many patients over the years, that what we do, if the patient complies and we work as a team, is like, it's like 90% plus. I say 90% on the conservative
That's
side.
conservative.
Yeah, to that we get a positive outcome. It's like, if you have a tree outside and you water it and it's got enough sunlight, enough water, good soil, that thing's going to grow. You don't have to sit there and worry, oh my goodness, is it all of a sudden one day this like limb's going to fall off? No. And so we shouldn't be living our lives walking around, oh, am I going to have a disease? Well, look, if you're taking good care of yourself and we're aware of these things and we take a look at those fundamental aspects, good nutrition, good movement, and that's what chiropractic's all about, is that good movement, that communication, sleep, eliminating some of those toxins, alcohol in a small amount or moderate or none, some of the other chemicals that are in the body, that, through lotions or shampoos, all these, all those.
The plastic in the
we could go,
microwave.
so the environmentals, just understanding that we live in a very chemical world, what are there some strategies that you're using to help mitigate that? So that's what I love, is that, chiropractic isn't just neck pain or headaches or sciatica, disc problems. We see tons of those, but we get to, as people come along, they say, like, it works best as a health system.
Yes.
And that means there's some longitudinal care, so it's awesome. I have patients that I've seen over 20 years, and it's because they choose me. They love like coming in, and they love the benefits of the lifestyle that they're living.
Well, the holistic approach that I think you take is also different from other chiropractors. I'm not knocking any chiropractors, but I've been to a few in my time, and it was essentially the wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. They made some really loud noises. I felt good,
Right.
In the short term, unkinked, the hose is
Right.
the way that it was described to me. But when you took me on your beautiful, tour of the facility and everything that you have, like, that was not my experience.
Yeah, well, I really want to believe that we've really been intentional about that and taken that to the genuineness of really trying to serve. That if we're going to serve people, we need to do that, and they're going to make a commitment, then we need to be committed to them. We got to give them the best of what's out there, of the things that the tools, the equipment that's out there that we can use on them to stay. After, I love learning, and I love learning new things. This is a side, but last year I learned actually to go and bird hunt and to shoot. You would think, being born and raised in Canada, that I would have been
every Saturday
aware
morning
of that, But a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, would you like to do this?" And learning something new. So I got to learn how to do that. But I love learning new things, and I think that learning what's new and out there and keeping up on top of that, getting to serve our patients with those things, it kind of produces in the results that we're able to get better results with people. So.
One of the things too that I really loved, about your clinic, I guess is what we would call it, correct?
Sure, yeah.
Is that there were these different words, that were just scattered. And I don't even want to say littered. Littered is not the right word, but they were everywhere. Explained to me and described to the audience, the beauty in those words and what are they supposed to signify.
Yeah. So we. Again, being intentional, there's stories behind different things and why. And so we have certain words that are put on. We have a lot of glass that you saw, and I wanted to have that open concept and bring, health and healing is part of nature. And so we have this lovely setting, this beautiful setting here on the 14th hole of the tournament player course here in the Woodlands, which is just so super blessed with that. And so I wanted to bring the outside in, and I couldn't put a wall up and, not be able to, for people to be, I wanted them to be able to see that. So we got all this glass, and so we put some words on this glass that would be like mindset, because your mind is so powerful. And, they say, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Henry Ford.
Yeah. Right. So, and so that's so powerful. If I'm not here to convince you. Right. So it's just you need to clean up attitude determines your altitude. If you're not going to get better. If you have a stable attitude, there's no, if you don't think that you're going to do it, then you're not going to take the action. You're not going to show up. So one of the words was action. You got to take action. What happened, I think, Chris, is in your experience prior, is that somebody failed to probably sit down and really find out what your goals were. When you came to see a chiropractor, what were your goals? What did you really want to get out of it? And then be honest and say, like, look, well, Chris, we could do that, but that's not going to happen. That's going to be like over, 2-3 months, or maybe even again longer if it's talking about performance enhancement and things like that. You're not going to have to come in really often, but just as you do something, you know how this goes. It's like you can't train real hard in a short period of time and then expect these results. You got to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, and it's in over time. And so structure, right? So one of those words, and that's probably, it's weird because that's one of my favorite words. And people think like structure, they're thinking like, oh, he's talking about the structure of my body. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about order and planning. And if we fail to plan, we plan to fail, right? So you need a good plan. You need some structure that's in place. So those are some of the words that were up there. One of them was, remember, commitment. Yeah. And so again, like I said, if somebody's going to be committed to a goal, they have to be committed to it, and we're going to help you and we're just as committed as you are to get that goal.
Kind of, I guess, going into like our bad habits that, lead us to your door.
Yeah.
Like, what is it about the American lifestyle right now, that's failing us? Because I feel like this grind lifestyle we're living, like work, not paying attention to our health. Like, I think it's starting to compound, right? And
right.
You see it show up at your door a lot.
Yeah. So I think distraction, right? So distraction, there's so many distractions that are out there. That's a big key killer, because it kills your momentum, because you're like over here. Like, just think about it. If you can actually force yourself to put that phone down and to just focus on a book for a little bit, or, so distractions are all around. I think that's one of the things that become in our habits. And I think we have to open our eyes and be aware that a lot of these things we're consumers. In America, truth sometimes leaves a zinger. So I know that might punch some people and they don't want to hear it, but you have to start saying, hey, I'm a consumer, and now look at what you're consuming. And it's like, what am I buying? How am I consuming my time? How am I consuming the things in your life? And those are ultimately your habits. And show me your habits, I'll show you your life. Like, I'll show you, your lifestyle. Those regular habits that produces an outcome. And so if you find yourself at a place where you're really not happy with it, you're going to have to make a change. And so I think that what's happened is we're so marketed to, and we're so, as consumers, that we all want to believe that somehow, some way, there's the magic way, and I see it with kids. It was really interesting. My daughter, we took her out to Lake Conroe for her 18th birthday, and she had 7 of her girlfriends. So it's kind of weird, like a 50-year-old dude and my wife with these girls, and I'm driving the boat. And hearing some of the conversation, this gal was talking about, how she saw this on Instagram, this real estate agent who is making all this big money doing some of these deals in LA or something like that. And I kind of thought, man, you know what that actually looks like, though? I don't doubt, and I champion that. That's awesome that she's doing this, and there are great people in real estate making a lot of money, but they're also working hard. That's not something that comes easy. Yeah. So whatever it is in life, you're going to have to find it, love it, and keep going. And even when you don't love it, you got to keep going.
Yeah, I think sometimes there's this false narrative, right, that someone that's, I guess, let's say famous or whatnot, has made it. Yeah. That they were an overnight success, and anything or nothing could be further from the truth. There's like 5, 10, 15, 20 years of backstory of them scratching and clawing. Like we were just talking about the country singer, is the singer for Anthony?
Yeah. Oliver Anthony. That was
like, that just didn't happen. He just didn't go and record a song and then boom. Like, there's a beautiful backstory, which is actually part of the beauty in what he's doing right
Yeah,
now.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was at it as a musician and really grappled with that, I think, for a long time, whether he was actually going to share his music or not. And, he created that YouTube channel in honor of his grandfather.
Yeah.
And he just, I think that there's two ways to look at that. There's so much the lens in which you're looking at that story, right? Well, there will be people that look at it and then they want to become that overnight sensation. Or there's other people that look at it like you said, that there's a backstory there, and the guy clearly had done work on it and playing a guitar and writing some music, and that just didn't happen overnight.
No, nothing worth doing. I'm going to say this, and I think it's a fact. Nothing worth doing is going to happen overnight. Where do you draw your momentum, and where do you draw your inspiration from? Because again, your practice is anything but just your average chiropractic.
Thanks.
Spot.
Yeah, thank you.
There's something different in there. I see a really attempt at a comprehensive approach. Like I want to heal the whole human being. I just don't want to give you a quick adjustment and send you on your way, which was my experience. I'd be in and out in literally 10 minutes on a long day.
Right.
That's with catching, an X-ray or two on top of all that.
Yeah. So people, I guess in our experience, when we come in, like we said, we sit down, we figure out those goals. And then on a typical visit, people will come in, we'll do a little bit of soft tissue work first, warm that up, do some different techniques of adjusting. And I do a lot of decompressing in through the spine and different, again, that's just so key because we're compressed all the time because of gravity and things like that. So we'll get you adjusted. And then there's this neurological window where we've rebooted your system, and we want to take that and we bring you out to the functional movement area and take, 10, 15 minutes doing some movement patterns, working on that brain connection so we can cement those in. We've had some other soft tissue tools. We have a therapist that's dedicated to that, that's going to get in there deeper. But then we have another tool, the regenerative wave therapy, that this acoustic wave that penetrates deep into that tissue.
Is that what you were getting me with earlier?
Yeah, that's I got you a little bit on your shoulder there. And again, that's like a super deep massage, way more than you could ever get to on your own. So I think that, just kind of putting all of those tools together, you asked what's my driving force in that. And I think that I think of the words of at the end of my days, when you stand there, I want to hear, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." That's what I want to hear. And I think that I go on to serve for excellence, and I want to love other people. And I think there's tangible ways in doing it. I think words are great. And I'm using a lot of them here today.
Yeah.
But it's the culmination of showing, and you got to show people. If you can show people through your action, and whether you show up on time, whether you're early or late. To me, on time is early. And things like that.
Oh man, my old coach is speaking to me when you say that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just those little things, and it's just a pursuit of. I think you have to find that beyond your own self. I have a super amazing family, and my main drivers, my wife and my children. I love them, and they're a part of that driver. But I have to do things beyond just them. And I think the story about it with my son, and
Yes, sir.
we can refer to my wife's interview with regards to that. But what if he had ever been taken from us? What would happen? And I guess I have to be able to stand and say, regardless of what happened, you see, things can be stolen from you in your life, and you could have that stolen from you. So then what? And so it's worth pursuing excellence regardless, because of the, what I'm saying? So,
Yes.
And seeing the bigger picture in it. So I love my wife. She's been and she's such an amazing person. And I certainly would not be the man that I am, would not have the practice I am without support like that. But it takes teamwork, man. I just think with my team downstairs, I love each one of those people that help me with the vision. So you got to have a big vision, mission, and then that'll drive you to doing more than just like, it's not just a job. It's not just, come in, lay down on the table. Like I can do something miraculous in that. And don't get me wrong, there are some amazing adjustments, but doing that over time, and what can you do for people over a period of time? So,
Yeah, well, you've established again, 6-time, Woodlands world champion. But what are some areas for growth? Because like when you're doing so well and you're on top of the chiropractic game, it's really sometimes difficult to see areas of improvement. In fact, there are fewer areas for improvement.
yeah.
Where do you see some areas like where your business and what you do can be a little bit better?
Yeah, so I'll speak to that first, which was, as you said, like when you're up on the top and you've got the 6-time reigning champ, then it's pressure, and you do have to look at things. You can't just rest on the laurels. It's nice, and we do celebrate, but you have to keep looking and searching. And I think it's just sticking true to keeping it simple and just keeping that at front is how are we making a positive impact? How are we making a positive impact? If that means opening up another place at some point in time, maybe that's what it'll be. We've brought, so recently our how do we grow and our how do we, improve or whatever was, we just brought a seasoned doc on who her name is Dr. Denise, and female chiropractor, and she's a great adjuster, and she embraces all of what we do. So, I mean, that's a rare find to be able to have that. And then, again, being willing to invest in somebody who's just, she's recently moved to the area. So investing in her and bringing her in and saying, hey, we're going to do this, and taking the time to do that and pour into the people around you. So,
do you find yourself like open to suggestions too, like from other people that are in the field?
I'd like to say I'm more open, but I'm such a hardhead. I think I just say that I'm guarded. You know what I mean? So am I open? I'm open to hearing things, but then I used to probably be a little more so, and I would get swayed. So I found that I had to really know what this baby is that I've created now. Yeah. And so I get real protective of my baby.
Well, you should. The baby has grown quite well.
It's maturing. And so I'm open to, I am open to hearing things, but then we've got to look and see how does that look moving forward. And my biggest struggle, honestly, is reproducing some of this. How would that look? And will we lose some of that quality? And man, it would just kill me to hear you say like, man, I went to see this guy and I would just like, it was a bad experience or something,
It wasn't even a bad experience.
Or just that, yeah.
But when I left, after 2 or 3, adjustments, my problem was fixed, right?
Right.
But I left always thinking like, wow, that was really quick and, wasn't very personal. And even just like the experience of the building that we're in is like, it really was. It just felt like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And we're done.
Right.
But like I walk into here just like looking outside, right? And looking at the golf course. That's healing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I don't know if it's the sun and it's producing the vitamin D.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is that even when you get with a group of people, community, right, is so, I think community is healing. And that's why I talk about my people here is that they know all the patients' names and they do care.
Yes.
That they want. And part of having another doctor in here, so we have 3 doctors now, and we have one evaluating doctor, and then myself, that's a treating doctor, adjusting doctor, and then 2 other adjusting doctors. And then we have a massage therapist full-time, the regenerative wave therapist full-time, the trainer. And I think that everybody wants to be able to have that a little, connection. And it doesn't need to be super long. It just is very intentional while you're there. And so you can't like overload yourself. And, like you said, you're in, you're out, and you didn't have that connection. And I find that for myself, like, it's not about me trying to see as many people as I possibly can.
Yeah.
It is creating those quality connections.
I would say 100%. Like that's what keeps you coming back, right? Like
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
catch an adjustment anywhere,
Right.
but where am I going to go where I feel like people, they appreciate me, they love me, they're invested in me and my well-being. I think like customer service, right? Like
Yeah.
what is Chick-fil-A doing that the other
Yeah.
places are
Yeah.
not doing? And
Yeah.
the answer is customer service. It's really not even the food,
Yeah.
even though those
Yeah.
fries are good.
Yeah. So I think that there's times where I've seen people for years and years, and it's more therapeutic when that little lady gets off the table and I give her a hug.
Yes.
I mean, I'm. It wasn't necessarily about that adjustment that day. Now, listen. There's a lot of value in those adjustments, but again, hearing them and knowing that they have somebody here that does care about them. Yeah, that's you're absolutely you're right.
Like I'll give you a case in point. Like when I see my former athletes, right? They're
Yeah.
getting older, they're getting married, they're having their own families and kids and stuff, and not a single one of them has ever come up to me and said, "Coach Ortiz, that was a really fine play you drew up," in that
Yeah.
big rivalry game against McCullough. Like no, they always come back and they talk about the good experiences, like the time we went out to eat, listening to them,
Yeah.
during a hard moment of their life. Never once.
Yeah.
They complimented me on a play
Yeah.
or a system or anything like that. It was always called the intangible, quality that you get with those relationships.
Yeah. One, I think that's it. That's what life's all about, is a relationship. And so we're again super blessed with so many great relationships, and getting to speak with you. I mean,
Dude,
it's
this is
awesome.
cool,
This
man.
is so cool. Yeah.
It's my second book I've read today, right? I
Yeah.
got two more questions I'd
Yeah.
like to ask you.
Yeah. Okay.
So the first one, give me like a 5-10 year projection. Jack, if I was to give you a magic wand and everything was just to go the way that like you're imagining it, because I can look in your eyes and you got a vision. You're not, this ain't it, right? Like
Yeah.
there's other stuff I can tell that you want to do. What are some of those other things you want to do?
I'd like for this not to be just so unique and just like it's like a standout. I'd like to be for this to be more mainstream of what people they experience that and that's hard because that means it takes you saying, I want to remain humble about it and maintain some humility. But I do think what we've created has been something awesome. And I do want to share that. And I think it needs to be, so I think in the next 5 to 10 years is how does Kevin Keys help to get this scaled to a bigger level and to reach more people with it?
It's a beautiful thing. It'd be really nice,
Yeah.
if you could. And I really do believe, that you could. But wow, it's like a great meal, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do I keep the
Well,
quality
and I don't think it's
there?
a mass, correct. And I don't think that's a mass scale. It's just again, finding it's all fueled all people and again on relationships. So, hey, God willing, those people will come and seek me or make those opportunities happen. And,
The world's an interesting place, right? Like sometimes we just end up meeting with the right people at the right time. and
absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully, one of those people, right, will come holler at a man over here and say, "Hey, I want to help you build."
Yeah.
Other question. This is more of a fun question to end on, but you mentioned you enjoy listening to podcasts because, like myself,
Yeah.
reading seems to have been, kind of difficult for you as it is for me.
Yeah.
Who do you like listening to and why?
Well, of course, probably one of the big ones is Joe Rogan, right? So, I just like his curiosity. I just think that you can learn a lot from, and it's cool to see Joe lighting up and learning at the same time as some of these the people and the people that he's chosen to pull out. There's Del Bigtree is a guy that follows some of his work, and again, he's a pretty brave guy. I give him a lot of props for the things that he's doing out there. There's there's a pastor out of California. His name is blanking on me right now, but I listened to he's a leadership podcast, and then what's the name of the John Maxwell? He is not John Maxwell himself, but he has a couple guys that do a John Maxwell podcast. And again, just I think leadership is really important. I think that when you're placed in a role, you really need to be able to get people around you, help them, and to be what they call a level 10 leader.
Yes.
So I like to listen to a lot of podcasts about that, because I think that that's really effective to help whatever mission then you're involved in. But I like, again, there's a lot of entertaining.
Like to laugh too.
Yeah, exactly. You like to laugh. And so
What is the value in podcasts? Because over the last 10, 15 years, they've really just exploded in popularity.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Why do you think that is? Because I know that's really all I watch now. I watch very little TV, and I listen to informative podcasts quite a bit now.
Right. I think it's because inherently we do have a desire to learn. And so we can choose, and certain things will hit you right and resonate with you. And you have so much content that's out there now that you can just dial into, and whatever's really interesting you, then you can hone in there and spend whatever amount of time that you want to be there, and then move on to something else, or, podcasts about different subject matter. Like you said, I'm from everything from dogs to gardening to
That's my ADHD brain working right there.
I mean, it's maybe I want to look about building a deck and learn about this, and you're over here and you hear these guys. But it's incredible because you have people that are truly experts,
Yes.
but there's little sleepers, right? And that's why I guess I'm a sleeper. I'm not really known. I mean, other than if you go on Woodlands online and they go, oh yeah, I think this guy's I'm a bit of a sleeper out there. But those people, when you listen to them, they have so much knowledge, and they have so many stories to share. And I think that if you'll take the time to listen to them, that you can end up learning a lot. And like you said, it's like you consumed 2 or 3 books in the amount of time that you tap into these podcasts.
Yeah, well, I want to say thank you very much for coming on the Be Someone podcast. I hope it's not the last time that we have you on. I'd love to continue to speak with, you and your wife, and maybe even go to watch Carson, come up, because he grows up and he's trying to figure out what he wants to do in this wild and crazy world. But, for me and Josh, my man over there, I'd like to say thank you for coming on the show, and the tortellini too.
Yeah,
thank you for the tortellini. It was good.
Yes, brother. It was awesome, and I really appreciate you asking me on.
Heck yeah. Well, this is Kevin Keys from the Woodlands Family Chiropractic. Want to say y'all take care, have a blessed day, and go out and be that someone. Bye-bye.
Lights, camera, session. Use the flow, molasses. Blue the line, my fashion. Future brightening glasses. Applause from the masses.
This is the Be Someone podcast.